Hey guys, it's Mary here. I just did a millennium pause in the beginning of the video, which I'm ashamed of, but hey, I'm back! So today, after one whole year of not releasing any videos on this channel, I came here to tell you guys about my experience as an atheist person and how I became an atheist person near the end of 9th grade when I was 15. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit notifications so you get to know whenever I release new videos. And I should probably tell you guys to follow me on TikTok and Instagram, as I used to do last year, but let's be honest, I'm never gonna post videos in any of those apps because I just hate recording videos in short forms because I can never talk in short sentences because I'm just such a yapper. So yeah, let's just, stick to the YouTube channel. And yeah, I think we can begin now. Oh, and also I just started recording in this new ambience because last year I used to record in my living room, but now I'm recording in my room, as you can see. This is one space where I have my bookshelf and my CDs right there. And I figured it would be a nice place to record the videos too. So I'm just testing out new, scenarios. And yeah, I think it's probably where I'm gonna record the videos now. I think I should tell you guys about my experience with religion before I tell you about my experience as an atheist person. So since I was a child, my family has always been very religious. My whole entire family is Catholic. So I have always been forced to go to the church every Sunday and like on Christmas and Easter's Day, like any Catholic person would do. And I was so invested in this whole thing for some time, Let's say that, I was really up for defending Virgin Mary every time someone said that she was not a virgin because it mattered so much for me and it matters so much for every Christian person for some reason. And I remember being a kid and like praying before you go to sleep and believing that if you do not pray, people that you love will just die and you're just a bad person. So I think, I have a lot of religious trauma because of that time of my life. I guess I had some phases where this whole obsession with religion just got worse. Like in 6th grade, I think I had a phase like that, and in 9th grade too. I had a phase where I was pretty obsessed about religion. And, talking about it right now, it just feels like it's so stupid that I went through that phase because I'm just so convicted in my atheism right now. And I say it like it's a life philosophy, right? It's kind of dramatic, but I really just am so convicted in my atheism right now that it just seems stupid that I have ever been anything other than an atheist. But I was. In 9th grade, I think it's where it got very, very bad because I was so religious that I genuinely thought kissing without dating someone was a sin. So I thought like, oh, I can't just go around kissing people because God would not like that. Which is like kind of weird because most people in Catholic Church do not believe that. But I was just taking this whole conservative Christian thing to the extreme. I was 14 going on 15, and it's that period of life where things are changing a lot and you start to question a lot of things and you start to think differently from your parents. And I feel like that period of my life was carried with a lot of guilt and a lot of pressure, genuinely, just from myself. Because especially in that age, the religion obsession, the religious obsession can really turn into an obsession about sexuality. So as I said before, I thought that kissing people was a sin. So I was genuinely terrified of having any kind of like contact with people from the opposite sex, I guess. I was absolutely convinced that if I kissed someone, I was going to like get pregnant, and God was going to get so mad at me that he would just throw fire at my house or anything like that, because that has always been the image of God that I had when I was younger. I didn't love the image of God, I was just afraid of it. And now I just understand how it works, what it means, that whole fear of religion that you have, especially as a kid, is just a way of controlling people. And I did not want to be controlled by things like that anymore. And I don't say this in like a disrespectful manner, towards people who believe in God and towards people who have any religion, not only Christians, but like people from any religion at all. But just because I figured it was something that I did not want for my own life. And I know that now, but when I was in ninth grade and I started to question some things, because in ninth grade, for the first half of the year, I was crazily obsessed with religion and purity and virginity and all of those things. And you know, near the end of the year, I was just starting to question some things and just starting to think for myself because of some things that I saw people saying on the internet. And at first, you just feel conflicted, when someone is just questioning this belief that has always been um, so strong and so present in your life ever since you were a kid. It just really feels like personal attack, and it felt like personal attack at first. But then I started to think a little bit more, and I realized that there were some things that did not make sense to me. For example, I was like 15 and I had a couple of friends that were from the LGBT community. And you know, I was taught in Catholic Church that people that are LGBT are like committing a sin against God. And it just felt so horrible to me, thinking that way about my friends, seeing my friends and thinking that they were going to suffer and be tortured in the fire of hell forever just because they liked someone the same gender as them. That is just something that really bothered me ever since I was a kid. And then I started to think about some other things, like looking around and noticing how the world works and the things that are so bad that happen every day, and just realizing that those things did not make sense with the idea of an all-powerful, all-good God that I had in my mind. And I just felt so guilty for thinking those things. When you grow up in a Christianity, I don't know if that is how it works in other religions too, but it is how it works in Christianity. You just grow up just so pressured with fear and so convinced of the idea of hell, feeling like someone is watching you from up there at all times, always judging whatever you're doing and always just noting down those things so that when you die, you just go to hell or heaven. And I just started to think that that idea is not very, it doesn't seem very good. It was kind of conflicting with the idea of this all powerful and kind and loving God that people had taught me about. So it really was probably the breaking point for me. Like my shelf broke. I always watch videos of one YouTuber that talks about her experience as a Mormon, growing up as a Mormon, and they just usually wear that expression, your shelf breaking, when you finally realize that those things do not make sense anymore, when things just go piling up until you realize you can't take it anymore and you can't just stay in that place and you can't just keep believing in that thing anymore. And the shelf broke for me just as much as it broke for her and for all Mormon people. I'm not Mormon. I was Catholic, as I said, but I don't think it's very different. The way that the religion works, based off of fear and convincing people that, being afraid is the right way to live, and feeling constantly guilty is a way to live a saint and holy and pure life. Here, I don't mean Catholicism and Mormon religion are the same. I just meant they have pretty similar ways of manipulating people. So after I started questioning about those things and thinking about all of that, I realized that that was not a religion that was good for me anymore, and it was not something that I wanted to have in my life anymore. Unfortunately, I kind of still do because I'm underage and I live with my parents, so I still have to go to church and I still have to be a part of all of those religious rituals that I don't really believe in. But I don't let the religion control my life as I used to anymore. You know, it's I think that becoming an atheist person and leaving religion and leaving Christianity or any religion whatsoever, it's a whole process that takes a good amount of time. It takes a lot of time, and it's a very slow process, because in the beginning I used to feel so guilty and like bad things would happen to me because I didn't believe in God anymore. I know that it sounds kind of uh, conflicting with the idea of being an atheist, being convinced that God is going to punish you for being an atheist, but it just it's it's really a whole process, because I think that religion, for me and for many people, is just based off of fear and irrational things that just crawl into your brain and convince you that anything that it's uh, rational is not good enough, and it's not and it can't compete with something that is godly and holy and that is irrational, because you can't explain God, because nobody can explain God, and you just start thinking those things. So when you uh, get into this whole process of becoming an atheist person, of in leaving the religion, it's just this battle between the rational part of your mind that understands that nothing of this makes sense for you anymore, and this irrational, childish part um, of yourself, that still fears, that still feels, because especially when you are a Christian person ever since you were a child, those things just get pretty rooted in your soul, they get rooted in your mind for some reason. I would say that I'm still in that process, because today and nowadays I just do not believe in God anymore, and I do not partake in any of those things anymore. But it's just weird, because sometimes you just still feel that guilt inside of you, and it's not a very good thing. And I am entirely sure that other people who are ex-Christian and who got out of the church can relate to me in that, because you know religious trauma is actually such a big thing in many people's lives, and they end up not even realizing that it's such a big part of them. And it's pretty sad, it's pretty hard to deal with. I know, like, it sounds kind of dramatic to say it's something hard to deal with, because definitely there are worse things that you can deal with in life, but I feel like a lot of people go through that, and I still do. Last year, I feel like I'm just oversharing too much in this video, but it's okay, because I don't think people will watch it, but I feel like it's just a way of me putting everything out and finally talking about this, the way that I feel, and maybe getting a way to express this whole thing that sometimes a lot of people do not understand. And um, you know as I was saying before I started yapping again, I had some difficulties falling asleep, and I still do, because I'm still afraid of the dark. At the rip age of 17, I still am afraid of sleeping in the dark. And I feel like that is, in a way, just a product of this religious trauma that has followed me throughout all of my life, and that follows a lot of people everywhere. Also, last year I had this kind of traumatic experience of waking up in the middle of the night screaming because I had nightmares so often. And I feel like it's something that is definitely a product of this whole religious trauma. There is no way that it is not a part of that, and it just, for some reason, I felt like it was my fault, that that was happening to me, and that I was just getting night terrors so oftenly, and that I just got paranoid that bad things were going to happen to me at all times, because, you know, it feels like it's a way of God punishing you, and it's kind of stupid that I still feel that way. It is irrational, and I know that, but you can't help but feel it, and it doesn't mean that I believe in God, I guess. I don't know. I could even say that, people could say that that makes me kind of agnostic instead of an atheist, but I don't really think that that's the right definition for that. So, yeah, and you just realize, especially after you get out of church, that this whole idea that Christian people are loving and are gentle and are kind, it's just all a lie. I'm not saying that every single Christian person is a bad person. I'm definitely not saying that, because a lot of people that are part of my, my circle of friends, they are Christian. My family is Christian. My mom is Christian, and I don't think that she's a bad person for that. But after you just become different from them, and after you become different from what they expect you to be, you just end up realizing that they really are very, they have a lot of prejudice against anything that's like different from what they are. Well, that's just something I learned from personal experience, because I genuinely just remember, um, after I told some friends that I did not believe in God anymore. I remember this case specifically when this one girl that was my friend, that I met her in the Catholic Church, but she was not Catholic. I guess she was agnostic too. And she had been an agnostic for so long before I met her. But I remember this specific case where her parents just, I don't know how they found out that I was an atheist person, but they did not let her, be around me anymore. And like, even though I don't care a lot for being included in church and being included in activities like that, it just feels like not something very nice. You feel like people are treating you like you are genuinely just the devil, and it's not something that anyone likes going through. And I have experienced things like that a lot ever since I came out as an atheist person. That's kind of an exaggeration to say, but yeah, I think that's the only way of expressing what I mean. And also, like, uh, people also do not respect that you are an atheist person. They think that because you are an atheist person, you are sad, and that you just do not have the love of God in your life and your soul. But like, I feel so much better now that I am an atheist than I used to feel when I was a Christian, because I do not feel as guilty as I used to feel before. And I like that, because it doesn't make sense to me to feel guilty about things that are so relative, and things that are so truly unimportant, but that are important in the, Christian belief. And I just feel so much better now. I feel so much better. But I have had some experience, especially in high school. But like, now I'm in senior year of high school. I'm gonna turn 18, and I'm gonna finally graduate. But I've been in high school for 3 years now, in the same school, and I have had some experiences with Christian people that were not very pleasant. I have never been afraid of telling people that I am an atheist, and I have never been afraid of the judgment, because there is a lot. And they just can't take it. They couldn't take it. I remember times where people would just offer to pray to me or to invite me to church, and it just feels like they believe in the depth of their soul. And in the depth of their soul, they believe that there is something missing from your experience of going to church, and that there is just something that they know that you don't. And I don't like that. I really don't like that. I've been a part of the church for a very long time of my life. I know what it is like. And I only got out of the church and I only became an atheist because I have been inserted in a religious context for so long. And, I feel like that was the reason why I became an atheist because, there's no way you just can't tell, what's going on around you and not look at it from a critical perspective. And I did look at it from a critical perspective. And it couldn't have been any different. Even, my experience as someone who used to read the Bible very oftenly, it just was one of the reasons why I decided that that was not a good thing for me anymore. I remember reading the Bible from the beginning to the end. I didn't read the whole Bible. It was my goal to start the Bible from Genesis and go all the way to the next one, to the next Bible chapter. And I remember I read like maybe 15 chapters of the Bible, which is not a lot comparing to the, to how big the whole Bible is, but I have most likely heard many, many, many other passages from the Bible, in church, because you always have that like on Sundays. So I know the Bible very well from my perspective. And I remember reading some things that were so absurd and things that did not at all make sense to me, and that really made me start questioning, and that really made me feel kind of guilty because I was questioning those things and because I was thinking badly of God and thinking badly of the Catholic Church, because it just felt so unbelievable that that was the book that I believed in, even though I didn't deeply know it. And when I got to deeply know it was when I decided and I realized that it was probably just something written and manipulated by men. And that kind of sounds disrespectful probably to a Christian person that is watching this video, if anyone is watching this video even. But it really was just my experience. And I feel like, especially when Christian people invite you to go to church or think that you don't know Christianity as well as they do, it's just a very annoying thing, because you never get to explain to them the reason why you became an atheist. You never get to explain to them what you believe in, and it just makes you seem like you're just a soulless and loveless person that just is lacking the love of God in their lives, and who is just an evil, character from a Christian movie, because they're very much like that. They're very villainistic and unreal, and I feel like these people really see you that way. They really do see you that way. The movie God is Not Dead is a perfect example of that. The atheist character is portrayed as a villainistic, traumatized person who is lacking the love of God. He's nothing more than an exaggeration, but it's still a very good example of how Christian people view anything that's different. Seeing atheist people as a personal attack and a villain that must be defeated. That was one of the reasons why I decided to record this video, because I never truly got to say and to talk about the way that I feel to everyone. I have some friends, and even my boyfriend is an atheist. I have a lot of atheist people in my life too, and I feel like I only ever get to talk to them about my experience and talk about the way that I feel and what I think, but I never actually get to, let everyone know what I feel like. And that's something that ends up kind of making you look like the bad guy, throughout the years. You just start to become this, this ignorant and arrogant person that like in their minds, and they view you that way. And I don't really like being viewed that way. I would like to be understood. I would like to be listened to. I would like to be heard, and I would like to be, like I would like it if the other side really put effort onto trying to understand what I'm saying and onto trying to understand what me and other atheist people feel like. Not saying that this video and what I say and what I'm saying here is a representation of how every atheist person in the world feels like, but I feel like it's pretty valid to say that a lot of them do, and yeah, I guess I just yapped a lot in this video, and a lot of the things that I said did not make a lot of sense, but I feel like I said everything that I had to say. So yeah, let me know your experience as as a Christian people, as an ex-Christian person, in the comments if you can, like if anyone watches this video, or like let me know if you disagree with me and why you disagree with me, if it's expressed in a respectful manner, please. But yeah, I'm probably gonna release another video next week because I'm traveling with my family again on Wednesday. Today is a Saturday, so like in 4 days I'm gonna be traveling again with my family, and I'm thinking of maybe recording a new trip vlog as I did last year, hopefully better than I did last year, because all of the image and the audio quality was just so up. But yeah, I feel like going back to this channel and going back to recording videos because I genuinely just enjoyed the experience of recording and yapping so much. So yeah, when I have time, I probably will do that. But as I said, I'm in senior year now, and I just am pretty busy this year because usually in Brazil, in senior year, you just take this very difficult test in the near the end of the year to try to get into a good public university, and I'm doing that currently, and I really spend a lot of time doing that, and it really just takes up a lot of my life. And yeah, I mean, when I have time, I probably am going to record another video. And I think that was it for today. This video was very messy and I talked a lot and I made a lot of pronunciation mistakes because, as I said in the previous videos, I am not English is not my native language. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I can see you again next week. Bye!